Welcome everyone to Loud and Proud Orlando. Thank you so much for your support. We are live, about 20 people live right now. Obviously, as we sit here, is January 19th, with the preseason already underway. The Lions obviously making a lot of noise in the off season. We've got a young gun, Harvey Sarajian, signing on right now after his super draft selection. We're going to be talking about, how is he going to be essentially fitting into Oscar's system, as well as the buzz between center back Iago from Flamengo potentially joining as a key addition to shore up the back line. Finally, the Luis Muriel telenovela is over, moving to Junior de Barranquilla, completed with that dramatic and badly overturned red card in his debut. He completely almost broke a foot of a defender there for Tolima. And then also we'll tie it into Martin Ojeda locking in a long-term contract with the Lions, being a number 10 for a long time. And also we'll discuss the ILF 15th anniversary celebration. I know John's going to spill all the tea on that. And as well, what's next for the Lions? We're looking for a new DP. Are we gonna just merging into the free agent pool? And also, we got the surprise of Facu Torres. Definitely making a surprise MLS return, which to me it was really not surprising because I followed his Brazilian tenure, and a lot of Palmeiras fans were not fans. But we'll discuss all this and more here. Loud and Proud Orlando. I'm here with John and with David. What's up, David? How are you, my friend? Good to see you again.
I am on the mend, boys. Last week I was struggling through what I like to call my flu pod last week, but yeah, feeling much better this week. Got the Lions to push me through, so got to be excited about that.
What's up, John? How you doing? Good to see you again, my friend.
Good, dude. Yeah, man. It was a great day at ILF Day. We'll talk more about that. So I feel like, preseason, good to see some Orlando City people, ready for some more games, ready for the season to start, really. Off season is cool for all the moves, but I'm like, now I want to see some of these, players IRL get out there on the field. So I'm excited for Valentine's Day, I guess, and doing that is the next time that we're gonna be able to see the players live in action. But excited to get into it today and talk to you about all the news as well. So much happening.
All right, so we're gonna dive into talking about Harvey Sarajian, that signed with Orlando City. How would he fit in Oscar Pareja's system, and what are some of his contributions? Orlando City recently signed him. It was the 5th overall pick in the 2026 MLS Super Draft from Wake Forest to a first-team contract through the 2027-2028 season, with club options extending to 2030 and 31. He's a 20-year-old Florida native, Naples, transferred to Wake Forest after starting at Georgia Southern, with he appeared in 17 matches and had 15 starts, scoring 2 goals and providing 2 assists. I had friends from Harvey that messaged us when we did the whole hot takes, which we should be doing a new one soon. But we were doing hot takes, and they said he's the truth. Like, that's the word they described. These are some teammates of his in college talking about him as how he's going to be playing. Versatile forward, can play all the 3 positions up top. He could play wing, he could play 10, he could play 9. Definitely that versatility fits Oscar Pareja and what Orlando's style it's been, especially emphasizing in young talent development for long-term success. David, I know that you had some graphics. We wanted to kind of shed some light on how Harvey is going to be helping Orlando City win a championship.
Yeah, so if you all will just mind me for like a minute or two as I nerd out a little bit on these numbers, that if you've read any of my articles, I love to kind of put these together. So the first, this graph that you see here is from a site called Y Scout. So Y Scout scouts not only the big leagues across the world for soccer, but it also scouts some of the U20 leagues. It also scouts the college level as well. And I feel like these graphics do a really good job at kind of like giving you a snapshot of what these players can provide. And unfortunately, I did not have these when I wrote my college article. So now that we have these, I think it's really important to look at and kind of gives you an idea of sort of what to expect with Harvey's game now that he signed with Orlando City. As Luis said, he's a very versatile kid. He can play any of the 3 spots up top. He can play striker. He can play the 10. When I did my breakdown and sort of my scouting of him, he's really good with the ball at his feet. So he's not going to be a striker like a poacher in the box. He's not going to be a target man. He's not going to be anything like that. But what he is going to give you is he's going to be able to create plays with his feet and the way he possesses the ball, and he's going to be able to distribute the ball as well. And these numbers kind of show it to you. So on the graph here, anything that's in blue is what's considered elite. And remember, he's being compared to other players in his league. So when we're talking about the NCAA as a whole, he's going to be compared against all Division 1, 2, and 3 soccer players because Y-Scout is great like that and has all of those statistics they can compare against. So with things like that, you see like expected assists per shot, and progressive carries are all in the elite category that you can see in the blue there. The progressive carries are the one that makes you think he's more of what we like to call a mobile striker. So anyone who's played any of those like football games you might be familiar with, if you played FIFA, if you played Football Manager, things like that, you're going to see terms like that thrown around. That's kind of similar terms that scouts and other folks will use as well. Those progressive carries are super important. And then right next to it in green, which is also above average, you're going to see progressive passes and then acceleration with the ball. All those 3 things in combination with each other on that side of the chart tell me that he's more of a sort of mobile striker. He's going to make plays for himself. He's going to make plays for his teammates. And remember, Wake Forest was a down year for him, right? Statistically. Didn't have a lot of goals, didn't have a lot of assists. That was the comparison I like to use with the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of thing. His Georgia Southern story, I think, tells a bit better of a story of who Harvey is, and I think what you're going to get with Orlando City. And as you can tell on this chart, a lot more blue than you had on the other chart, a fair amount more green on this chart as well. This is the kind of the stuff you expect out of him. He's going to give you a different look at the striker position than what Duncan's going to give you, right? And that's great because that's exactly what Orlando City needs right now. Because personally, I think Harvey's going to be the guy that's going to end up backing up Duncan for much of the beginning of the season if we don't make the DP choice now, right? Because I know there's this huge debate amongst the fan base. Do we make the DP choice now? Do we wait? This, I think, gives you the protection of this guy gives you a different look at striker. And, of course, gives you another body at striker. And he even plays a little bit differently than what you're going to see out of Iago. Iago, when he plays the striker position, because remember, Iago can also play that spot, he's more of a get-in-behind kind of striker. Iago's going to stretch the line. He's going to play on the back shoulder of the defender a lot. He's going to drift wide. Iago likes to naturally drift left, which makes sense. He plays on the left wing a lot. So you're going to see that a lot from him. Harvey is more comfortable with playing in the half spaces, playing with the ball at his feet, progressing the ball in a bunch of different ways, and these numbers kind of prove it to you. So I really wanted to give people like a more in-depth understanding of what Harvey does and what he's going to bring to you. And I really like the fact that Luis was getting feedback from some of his teammates and some folks at Solomon College. This kid is the truth. Now, the question is, can the truth raise his level quickly? Because, man, we only have like 2 weeks, right? Or 2 months, excuse me, before the season starts. He's only going to have 2 months to raise his level from the college level, where, again, last year he had a okay season. He's got to raise it from his Georgia Southern season, I feel like, his freshman year, to what we expect for MLS, and we're hoping that he can get there. If there's anybody who's got the right skill set out of the draft picks, I think this guy's got the right tools to be successful as soon as he hits the ground running.
I just think the goal shot on target metric is insane, and because we really haven't had that last season. I also love the fact that he can also play, the successful dribbles, 59.17. That's not bad for college. The carries is consistent because he did it in Wake Forest and he did it also in Georgia Southern. So, John, what are your thoughts on this analysis that David just brought forth? And where do you think the club is heading at? Do you think Harvey's gonna be playing right behind Duncan, maybe Ramiro's position essentially for a little bit until we get a DP.
I think, first of all, great analysis by David. I think
Yeah,
it's
100%.
I think it definitely shows to me these stats back up what like I see with the eye test when I looked at his, games and his highlights, and really that he is that guy that really across anywhere across the, the front, I think, and also in the 10, he is a space finder. He's the kind of guy that's going to be able to get on the ball and create, I think, through the middle mainly is what I've seen. And I think that progressive carries is what really excites me. So I do think David's right in the fact that he's going to play a role being a backup to Duncan in the striker position. But I also think that he potentially will come off the bench for Ojeda at times. And I think he can play that number 10 because I just think he has that, that ability to get on the ball in the box and drive forward the same way that Ojeda does from the number 10 position. So don't be surprised if you see him covered there. And I think that's probably why he's obviously impressed in, preseason to get like we brought in all these, guys, and he's the only one so far that we've heard has actually got a contract. So that's got to tell them that obviously he's come in and he's hit the ground running and they feel comfortable already being like, okay, we're going to give this guy a contract. Whereas maybe some of the other guys we brought in are, I don't know, maybe we're going to hear about them soon. Maybe they're.
Yeah. Sorry. I think you cut off, John. Sorry.
You're good. Yeah, like I just think that obviously it's a good sign that he's already got a contract. Maybe other guys will as well, but I definitely think that he has shown enough of a bright spark and they feel comfortable. We'll talk more about the 9 situation, but I think regardless, he's good coverage in the attacking positions and brings this dynamic sort of false 9 is kind of what I would call it, right? Type vibe where he will drop in as well. He just wants to get his foot on the ball, but he can play, I think, really anywhere in that 9 and 10 in different roles and has that ability to do different things. So I'm excited. The progressive ball carries, that's something we don't always see our team doing as well.
Now I do want to thank all the players that we acquire from the draft. They really watch our show and are present in all our social media. I know that they keep like checking out our content and we appreciate it. And again, if you want to kind of give us a little bit of a scoop and be like, hey, this is I think how I play, you can also agree or disagree, with the analysis as well, because you guys are the ones liking the content and retweeting the content and all of that and sharing. So, but I love the fact that we are onto a new season and there's a lot of positivity brewing. I'm going to read some comments real quick here. Logan, thank you, my friend Logan. It says preseason. It says vamos. There you go. I'm going to be completely honest. I know that we're going to get to the ILF a little bit later on. A lot of people, I don't know if they've noticed or not, but I think it's amazing how they did this at Will's Pub. I do want to say Will's Pub is a staple for Orlando independent music, especially punk rock, metal, hardcore for so many years. Also, I will say Back Booth at some point, and also Uncle Lou's. But Uncle Lou's only holds like about 100 people. But I think Will's Pub, I just think it's just so Orlando. That whole entire event is just phenomenal how they pull that off. And I congratulate you guys. And I wish I would have been there. Unfortunately, other commitments, but hopefully we'll try to be there next time. So amazing event. Landon says excited for Iago. Chacha Slide says when the New Jersey will leak. Well, we'll have to get FC27. I don't know. Daniel Vega. I'm excited for what Harvey has to offer. Deathwalker 407. This seems like a great pickup. High upsides. There you go. Frankie Cosmos. Harvey looks legitimately gigantic. Look taller than Ricky Lewis in showcase videos. It says, anyone know the last time Orlando signed a college guy straight to the senior roster? That's a good question. Do you guys know?
I mean, Duncan was a pre-signed senior, but I don't know if you count that. So I mean, it
Well, I
depends
mean,
on how you look at that.
What do you
But
mean by that? I mean, is that like from college? Because I mean, like, yeah, every year we sign a guy or two.
uh-huh.
I think he
Yeah,
means like
like,
straight from the jump, like with it, like at the beginning of preseason, as opposed to because normally we wait.
Like, no
Like
doubt.
Bay,
Woodger Bay, right?
Bay was signed like way late in the preseason though.
Yeah,
Like a
honestly,
week
that's
before
why
we
I was
started.
saying about Harvey is like usually it's not till late January that they've really assessed them and we hear about what's happening.
Remember though, they've been scouting Harvey for a while because Harvey
Yeah,
played
I
his
heard that
academy
too.
ball in Florida. So and I
There's
think even
definitely
Ricardo
guys
mentions it in the
that
thing.
they scout
So.
for multiple years, so they know when they're coming in that they're pretty sure they know what they've got, right?
Right.
100%.
Oh, he means Frankie. Frankie means the roster designation. Okay, I wasn't sure
Oh,
what he was like
gotcha.
getting at in terms of like where he was
Yeah.
going. That I don't know. I'd have to do more research on that. I don't know that off the top of my head.
No,
I think there's not a lot that goes straight. Most of them get that supplemental OCB / Orlando City roster.
Well, yeah, you normally don't use the senior roster spot. Normally, teams don't use the senior roster spot on players like that. So
yeah.
I'd have to go back and think about it, to be honest.
So when it comes to Oscar Pareja's tactical system, he employs obviously the 4-2-3-1 or variations of that, focused on high press and quick transitions. So like David was saying, Sarajian could slot in as a winger or forward. So that's a good versatility of his. And the one-on-one ability and, the shots on goal it just makes it super versatile. And that's what made him successful at Georgia Southern and then at Wake Forest. That's why Wake Forest picked him up, which Wake Forest has one of the best collegiate level systems in the nation. So, and they eye him and they said, hey, we want you on our team. And again, it's again, low risk, high upside move that it is very consistent since Ricardo, and also before that, Luis Musi, kind of brought up the culture of Orlando City. So I hope that he develops quickly and is able to contribute a lot for the Lions. But then we have from across the pond, we have also another but possible signing, which is a well-needed signing, in my opinion. Orlando City's in advanced talks to sign 20-year-old Brazilian center back Iago from Flamengo as a U22 initiative player. The deal isn't finalized per Tom Bogert, but Iago is a youth international who captained Brazil at the U20 World Cup. He has had some limited senior minutes, and that is the reason why he's looking to branch out. But he led Flamengo also to a U20, Libertadores, and also Club World Cup. So he actually has a U20 treble. So for his age, it's tremendous to win three major championships. So his contract, it would expire at the end of this year. He's been attracting interest from clubs like, I think they told me, Everton and Crystal Palace, Europe, and but Orlando City, apparently the offer of Orlando City, it's something that he really likes, and they're working on it. It's not yet finalized, but I see this as a phenomenal pickup. I mean, this is a pickup that's gonna be a huge impacted pickup, especially on defense. Having a Viking that kind of was not as fast as he used to be, but he's definitely the captain of the team. Having Brecalo maybe playing right back again or left back again, because Marin is there. So it just addresses a lot of it fills a lot of holes after Rodrigo Schlegel's potential departure, but also his addition into the team may mean that we may not pick up one of those new center backs from the draft. So I don't know. What do you guys think for starters on this particular target, Iago? I don't know, John. You wanna talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I just think he's. David was talking about when you play these games, and I'm a big football manager guy, been playing FIFA my whole life. Iago is literally the guy that I go sign for Orlando City because
100%.
I love to go sign, Brazilian players, and he is always, rated as one of the top Brazilian center backs that's going to come out. I was looking at some highlight videos of him, and this one really caught my eye where they did this little like stat sheet at the beginning, and they compared him over on the right here to Diego Carlos and Bremer and Mateus de Ligt. And I'm like, honestly, there's, as much as I know this is like a promotion video for him or whatever, I'm like, yeah, I can kind of see where they're going with. Like, he is that classic Brazilian, like he's comfortable on the ball, can do it with both feet. I mean, I've been saying for ages that we need younger, bigger, stronger, faster center backs. So yeah, sign me up, man. Like, I'm all down for Orlando de Janeiro. Bring in all the young Brazilians. You know, if we hit on 3/4 of them, then you're gonna make, you know, your money back. This is another guy that we're gonna go use the U22 rule on. We're getting him basically on a steal, and potentially the sell on value is massive. It's very similar to what we did with Otavio, to Iago. I think we really, if you look at the ranks of Orlando City, we've got a lot of young Brazilian talent now. So it just makes perfect sense. And I've seen other MLS accounts from other teams around the league being like, damn, I wish we were going after this guy. So the question for me is he a starter? I think he could be.
I would.
But also he could also be a guy that's the third option there, that, you know, get some minutes, get some time, and fights to maybe push, you know, Jansen or Brecolo out of a position. But he's I think physically better than the both of them. Not maybe, you know, mentally being younger. I don't think he's got that, you know, intelligence of the center back with the age and, you know, amount of games and the level of games as those guys have played. But physically, I think you're gonna see that he is just a beast, right? He's a monster. This video, I think, is titled something like Iago, the beast of, you know, Flamengo. So
yeah, he has a huge personality on him. He was a captain of the Brazilian national team, and Flamengo is a squad that just builds up championship level players in Brazil. They're known of that. That's why they're one of the most prestigious club there, and it shows, man. I mean, just the personality. You know, he seems and looks ready to go. But again, you know, I think you make a great point there. We have some footage here.
yeah, if David want to give us his thoughts while this plays.
Yeah. So I think honestly, this could be the best one out of the 3 U22s that we signed this offseason, which is crazy because obviously initially we didn't have the third U22 spot. And that's no insult to Thiago or Otavio at all, right? I think they're both going to be good players for sure. I mean, this guy is just, again, another level of the U22s that we're looking at, right? This opens up the bigger conversation of like, let's look at the past couple U22s, right? Nico Rodriguez. I don't want to kick the guy while he's down, but he didn't work out, right? I mean, yeah, we hit on Cesar, but he was really one of our only hits that you can kind of look to when you're talking about U22s and things like that. So the level and like the amount of money, like we haven't even talked about like what the rumored sum is for this guy. I think it was like 3.5 million was rumored to be the bid that we had put in for him. That's in total, guys, over $10 million on U22 players alone, right? Just on 3 guys, you know, all below the age of like 20, right? They're all at 20 or less. So just really crazy stuff. But when you dig into the stats and stuff like that, and I know Luis talked about it and John's talked about it a little bit too. I mean, captain for the U20 Brazil team, really like led that team throughout the entire year. This past year, I was actually able to do some digging and got some stats from Brazil's U20 league, which is not easy to find, y'all. I dug and dug and dug, so I'm glad I could find something. But he played 3,000 minutes last year, actually. 12 of those matches were international matches for him. He had an average rating of 7.38. If you look at those overall ratings, he was rated the best central defender in the U20 league across the board. And remember, in Brazil's U20 league, we're talking about a step up compared to other academy leagues, right? Brazil's got a lot of these giants. They're really good at building up these young kids and things like that. If you want to kind of connect the dots here, Pedro Leal also played on that team a little bit with Thiago for Flamengo, so there's a connection there that we're kind of building here. But some other good things to like mention that I think are going to excite people. He played 20 games at left center back and 13 games at right center back. So there's a lot of versatility there where he can kind of play on both sides. As a center back, he is right-footed. I know some people have that thing where like I want my left center back to be left-footed and all that kind of stuff. But this guy can play both sides and he plays it both pretty well. Good passing completion percentage above 85%. He's got a 60% long pass completion percentage. So awesome stuff there. But then when you look at like the defensive stats, he had 24 tackles last season, 30 blocks, 128 clearances,
It's crazy.
59 interceptions, and 297 recoveries last year, and his 2,836
I love
minutes.
that.
So this kid played some. And then on top of it, like Luis said, he was the captain for the U20 Brazil team. He had 21 games out of his, I think it was like 32 or 30 some on games where he was captain. So most of those games, he's wearing the armband for either the U20 Brazil team or for the U20 Flamengo team. And that's not an easy team to kind of step in and be the guy for. And he really was that. And I know we had this conversation a couple weeks ago. Putting guys who have been captains or have those great personality traits just make your locker room better, right? And we heard the comments that were made about last season about there were some locker room issues. There were some chemistry issues. Like we didn't say that, Ricardo did, right? He told that to Mike Gramajo at Wesh. So you're seeing the type of character of guys that we're also bringing in on top of it. Besides just the talent, we're bringing in dudes that are going to make a difference in the locker room. And I mean, what's not to love about this dude's game? He's so physical.
Right.
He's so strong. He gets up for balls. How often have we been asking for a center back to come in here and do this? I think just like I said with Pedro Leal last week, where I said Pedro Leal is going to break into the first team and contribute and all that kind of stuff. I think, honestly, Iago has a really good shot at taking one of those two spots by the end of the season. We all think Janssen's sort of in his twilight of his career anyway. He only signed, the 2-year deal or whatever that was. So he doesn't, we don't think have that much left. I would not be surprised if he's either pushing that side or if we don't feel comfortable at left back at all and we need to bump Brecalo out left. I think he can easily come in and fill in and do what we need to do. And he's honestly going to have the benefit of learning next to somebody like Janssen and next to somebody like Brecalo. And then I know Alex Freeman is young, but being able to use his MLS experience that Freeman got last year and be able to, sort of suck off of that as well. Those are all the great things. I feel bad for the draft picks at the center back because I think it makes it a little more difficult for them to make the first team roster. But don't forget, we can always sign them to OCB contracts and use the short-term like loan agreement to give them a couple games with Orlando City if we want to, next year and all that kind of stuff. But there's no shame in that. It's just this guy is another class, right? He's another level. He's another class above. So this is so exciting. If you're not excited about the signing, I don't know what you're looking at or watching because this guy is it and then some.
Right, and to tie to what he's saying, I do want to say, Orlando City, to quote Weeby or whatever his name is, Orlando City is getting creative. Right? It's getting creative on U22s because I think it's one of the first seasons that they're getting over $10 million on really high-level starlets. So much so that it made Brazilian media. And I was talking to a friend. I want to say hello to Iago Brandao. Like he told me, it was like, you guys are doing like the U22, like you guys are really poaching really good Brazilian talent. Like these are not like kids that are not ready to start in MLS. These are MLS ready kids that is going to give you that. I see them. Not only you guys could bank on these kids, but they could give you like 2 solid seasons and then go to Europe. You know what I mean? It's a really good investment on the long run. So when fans say, some fans obviously, oh, they're not getting all these players and Charlotte is getting all these players and Miami's getting all these players, it's a completely different story. I think they want, like David was saying, the championship mentality. I mean, these kids are coming from winning cups, like winning things, like our U22s before, not to any disrespect, or signings like Ivan Angulo and even Pedro Galese, they were low-cost, high-reward players that never won a championship, that were kind of passed on, different teams loaned out, were just scraping, scratching the surface, to make it and be in the first team level. This kid's already playing in quality leagues, and they're already winning championships in other levels. So they're 2 steps above of some of our signings that we've gotten in the past. So to me, if we're gonna talk about culture and we're gonna talk about moving ahead and having a different type of mentality of being able to be ambitious and winning several cups, I like this way. Especially with this whole investment in youth and youth facilities, John. I think it's a win-win. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
I think you gotta play to your strengths, right? And I think you gotta, like you were talking about, Weeby saying get creative, or whatever. His main point, he says it's badly, but what he's saying is find what works for you as a club, right? And if you're in Miami, what works for you is the fact that you have Lionel Messi and you can bring in every Argentine youth guy to come in and who wants to play with Messi, right? And they will come at a discount price. What works for Orlando City is Brazilians, right? We need to play off of our history and going into having Kaká here and what that means. And also our strength of our front office. Like, what does Ricardo know? He knows Brazilian like football. He knows Brazilian soccer, and he knows about like the good young youth prospects. And Brazil is full of young youth prospects. And that's what we're tapping into. And that's our game plan. And, not all of these guys is going to come in and hit the ground running and be awesome. But if most of them do, then we could have a very good team, and also the upside in the future of the sell on, etc. So this is just how Orlando City does it. But I agree with you, Luis. Before we would go after guys that were like slip through the cracks kind of guys. This game plan is go after young prospects with big upsides. Like, we're building a team the same way that Brighton or Bournemouth builds their Premier League team. Go out there and find these level of guys that we can afford, that we can develop, and then we'll sell them on for more money. But while they're here and they play for us, they're going to be good enough and at the level, and we can develop them and become a place that's known for developing players like that. And then you'll get even more, right? Obviously, we've got a reputation here at Orlando City of doing a good job of that, or else none of these Brazilian guys would want to come here. So I think it's really positive. We're finding our niche. Is it going to win us an MLS Cup? I don't know, but this is how we're doing it.
100%. Over 92 people live. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you.
Luis, can I say a couple things just real
Yeah.
quick to piggyback off of that? Number one, games aren't won on paper, people. So I don't care if Miami looks like they have the better and bigger and badder squad. No offense, but look at the regular season series last year to tell you what happened there. Number two, there's been a lot of like kind of weird discourse around like Twitter and other social media that everyone's like, oh, another U22, he's going to go to OCB. Guys, he's not going to OCB. I'm telling you that right now. First of all, depth. We need him for depth. But number two, this guy, no offense to OCB, but this guy's level is higher than OCB. I would be shocked if he went down to OCB and played a lot of minutes down in OCB. We might do it to keep him warm if for some reason he doesn't start the season up with the first team and we feel like we have enough depth. But I think this guy's the first center back off the bench most likely. The third thing I kind of wanted to say about all these U22s that we brought in, Luis Otavio and Tiago and hopefully Iago, is it when these guys hit or they're good, it raises the floor of the team, right? So everyone right now is down because we don't have the big heavy hitting talent at the top of the roster, right? Now we're down a DP as well, so there's some people that are down in the dumps and they're like, well, this team is doing X, Y, and Z, and we're sitting here signing U22 players and some fringe guys and a college draft pick. And it's like, guys, you have to build the roster from the top end and the bottom end. If you're raising the floor of what this team can do, you're benefiting from that, right? And you have these kids that are going to come in. Like John said, they're not all going to come in and light the world on fire.
100%.
I would be shocked if all of them came in and were able to do that. If they could, great. I'm just going to sit here, eat my words, stick my hand in my mouth and call it a day, right? Like that, awesome, great. Tiago wants to bag double-digit goals, fine by me. If this guy wants to come in and break, Suarez's nose, then that's cool too. Like, whatever, man. Like, I don't really care about that. But if 1 out of the 3 hit right away, or if 2 out of the 3 hit right away, while the other one's getting up to speed, that's still a win for this team to raise the floor. And I don't know that last season or even 2 seasons ago, we could have said that on the lower ends of our roster, right? I know right now the question, a lot of it is depth, right? Where's the
Yeah.
depth? Where's the depth coming from? This guy solves 2 of those problems for you. He solves the depth problem, and he also gives you an actual competitor towards what it is. And if he ends up beating out Brekalo or he ends up beating out Janssen, that's going to be the first name that's on the sheet for the bench, right?
Well,
And that
yeah.
doesn't make you worse, it makes you better, right?
And not only
So
that,
those are things
Brekalo,
you got to keep in mind, like how that
Brekalo,
looks.
yeah, Brekalo can move to left back. You know, I mean,
I don't know if you're deep enough at center back right now to do that. If
you
we had a
know,
couple more guys, maybe, but I get your point. Like, because I know a lot of people are still not up on Marin, and I totally understand that.
right.
But I'm
So,
still crossing my fingers for a Reed Brown ball out preseason, and we can hopefully get that dude to do something because he's a physical like behemoth, man. If you guys have not seen Reed Brown play, that kid's got size and then some. He's not like super freak athlete like Alex Freeman, but he's got some size, I tell you.
all right, let's read some comments. I mean, only 20 senior roster spots. That's a lot. Thank you, Frankie. Speaking of across the pond, hello, John Rollins TV. I enjoy your video where you talk British. There you go.
When
Thank
I
you.
talk about Stoke, I think I slip into my English accent, so that's probably what you're talking about.
Wow. Orlando is literally Rio de Janeiro, says Daniel Vega. Thank you. The average height of this team just went up 4 inches from last year. 100%. Frankie Cosmos, will they put the OCB championship banner up at Inter&Co or in Kissimmee? We'll see. Landing 2124, he'll be amazing for us. Ruben Perez, Orlando has a Brazilian influence. Glad we're moving away from the Colombians. There you go, Ruben. Appreciate you. Well,
That's a great segue. We got set up perfectly. The perfect segue.
yeah, that's a perfect segue by Ruben. So,
Ruben, you nailed it.
2 Colombian exits started playing in the Super League, Colombian Super League. One with a lot of controversy because their coach, assistant coach, said that he was overweight and that he wasn't match fit, but the player, per sources, insisted to play the second half, 15 minutes. It seems kind of very similar to what kind of happened here in Orlando, but whatever. The player A, Mr. El Toro Muriel, comes in, eager, a little XL jersey comes on, running like this, a lot of confidence. Here comes into a transition, and he literally deserved a red card in his debut. He actually got a red card. He literally stepped on the foot without the ball of a defender. And I mean, this anywhere else that I know, it's a red, but Colombian fans from the Super League were talking online and also some newspapers saying that they overturned. This went to VAR and it was overturned, and he was given, instead of a red, he was given a yellow. And the reason it is because Barranquilla, that game was so packed that they thought, fans are thinking that they did it because people were going to riot if this guy was going to get a red in his debut. So nonetheless, they overturned the card, and then, it's still, it wasn't enough. Junior's not doing too hot, and then, it is a done deal. On the other side, Nico Rodriguez got a buzz cut, little haircut going on, came in, nothing. But overall, then Pedro had a save. But either way, the 3 ex-Orlando City players debuted already in the Colombian League. And finally, we can put a rest into the Luis Muriel, departure. After 2 seasons, he scored 14 goals in 66 MLS appearances. And obviously, it frees up a DP spot, allowing Orlando to target a brand new striker. So he should have received a red card. He went studs up, tackle, and it was overturned to a yellow, which everybody online is saying this is not good. This sets a bad precedent. It's crazy how money can influence the refereeing. Like fans from all teams are like blasting the decision of the overturning of the card. And I don't know. What are your thoughts that the Muriel chapter is fully closed? Let's start with David, and then we'll go with John.
So I'm gonna do my best to not comment about the game that he played in, because I just there's just so many things that prove me right based on that tweet, because I quote tweeted that the reporter who's talked about the coach saying he came in overweight, and I explained how he did it with us twice. Remember, guys, he did it twice when he came in on preseason. What I want to talk about is the masterful performance that is Ricardo Moreira going out and not using a buyout on Luis Muriel, but somehow transferring him to junior and doing it with those guys that we would get some kind of future sell-on percentage, which we know is not going to happen, because I don't think that's, likely to happen at all. But guys, in the press release, not a buyout. Normally when we sell someone for a fee, it says like for an undisclosed transfer fee, because MLS doesn't disclose transfer fees. It kind of sucks. It's whatever. But like we couldn't find a fee. I asked, I don't know if Luis was able to as well, but I asked some reporters down in South America, and everyone was like, no, I don't think there was a fee. I haven't heard of a fee or anything like that. So what we basically did is we got rid of this dude's way inflated contract of $4 million, got that off the books, didn't have to use a buyout, basically used it under the guise of we'll get a sell-on percentage if they sell him, which we know they won't, because he's going to probably just finish his career at junior. And he kind of already is showing what we talked about in Orlando, that some junior fans were trying to tell us was all just a facade, and he didn't want to play for us, and this
Orlando
is all
sucks.
yeah. And sorry guys, he kind of proved it to you the first match that he came into, right? And so like, listen, I hope he turns it around for junior. I'm not over here like wishing for his demise or anything like that, so let's not think I'm going that far. It's just the writing was on the wall like last season and the season before.
Yeah, I'm gonna give the microphone to John, but I wanted to add real quick. What I was told was that the assistant coach did not want him to start on that game, to even set foot in that game, but he pushed it. And again, he went to the president that brought him in, that got the 5 sponsors and the parishioners basket, going to church, going to mass, passing out the basket. Like that dude, he's like, oh well, he wants to play 20 minutes. You think he can squeeze out 20 minutes right there? And it's a sold out crowd. What are your thoughts, John?
I'm just happy because it's not our problem. Like, honestly, I just yeah, like I remember when the plans for the offseason came out and he was still on the roster and we hadn't released him. Like I was really upset. I wanted to release him beginning of last season. Like, so I had been waiting for the day when Luis Muriel was gone. And look, nothing against him personally. He seems like a good dude, but he doesn't care. And I think that's pretty evident. So I'm glad to just not have to deal with this anymore. And I totally agree with David. I don't know what kind of crazy negotiation skills Ricardo has to be able to get us out of this situation where, it's just a straight up transfer. Like, it seems like he managed to transfer him on a free, which is crazy considering we owed the man like $4 million. So I don't think we paid any of that. I mean, we don't know, but there could be a world in which we didn't pay any of his last year of his contract because he got moved on a free, in which case he has to waive, the remainder of his contract. I don't know exactly how much, did he waive it all? Did we pay him a little bit? I don't know. But it seems to me like it was an incredible deal. So great, we got rid of him and we didn't even have to pay out really any money. So a double win. And now, we can figure out what to do with that DP spot.
Well, and John, I think what it was too is that like he gave away all of his leverage, right? We talked about this last week.
Exactly.
He went to junior, he's wearing the kit, he's training at their facility, He's telling him he doesn't want to come back. Orlando called his bluff and said, all right, we don't want you back. Like, don't come
Yeah,
back. And then it like
exactly.
gave away all the leverage there. And then Junior kept talking about, well, we got this sponsor and we got this sponsor and now we've got a beer sponsor and now
Yeah.
we got this and fans are going to come in droves and they're going to buy his jersey and they're going to fill the stadium and they're going to do all these things. They got 400 more fans, so good on them for raising the season tickets there. That's awesome.
Told that crowd.
Yeah, well, for that game, but
They gotta sell a
I
lot of
saw the
beer to
season
make it
tickets
worth
was
it.
only like 1,000. But yeah, but like I get, yeah, good. Let the beer flow, whatever. But like he gave away all of his leverage, right? And that's fine. Like good on Junior and good on their fans and their front office for organizing that. I think it was well organized by them to really get this guy to come because they knew he was going to be expensive, and like they seem to have pulled off something that didn't seem possible. So like hats off to them, hats off to their fans for being able to enjoy Muriel and his his boyhood club. We played it so well. Like Ricardo
we
deserves
did.
a gold star
Last
just
night.
for that. I mean,
Last night.
he probably saw all this, and like the rest of the people that work with him and everything, they probably saw all this unfold like we did, and probably even more with more of the sources and people on the ground that they probably have. And they played it so well. I bet they went to the table and said, Luis, we know you don't want to be here. We don't want you either. Like, we're not talking about money anymore. You're training in a
Put the
kit.
cards
You
on the
already told them
table,
you're gonna play
Luis.
there. Yeah. Like, let's end this, right? Let's end the charade, and we'll part our ways. You have a nice time. We'll have a nice time. We don't have to use a buyout. Cool. Look, see you later. Best of luck to you. Send us a jersey, I guess, when you get down there, and we'll call it a day, right?
You know what I like about the club's attitude in this whole ordeal was, them having the leverage on there, and obviously, that's just a lot for the league. It's just a lot for the league that the league is not gonna, I think this front office has a lot of criticism. It's always criticism that they have to be used to the criticism. But what I like is that when there is like even like something that's super far fetched, that right now SKC is going through this with the Cesar Inga guy, the Peruvian guy. This novella of if he's coming, is he not coming? Peruvian media is misreporting everything, and they're they're toying, they're allowing for the Peruvian media to toy around with their name and their club, and Orlando does not allow that. And the reason why, and I do want to say, is thanks to everybody that's reporting this, because definitely aside, if we would have never reported this, never done our due diligence to even talk about this, like there's not really a lot of outlets for SKC, Orlando's name would have been in the mud, because I mean, some of the comments that they were saying, talking about our club and the MLS, were just really bad. I mean, I'm not going to mention them, but they're really throwing us through the mud. And now that we're seeing this unfolding, it's like, we want to kind of be like Nelson from The Simpsons, but we're not. You know what I mean? Like, we're being nice, but it's a chapter that's ended.
I'm a little bit like Nelson's from The Simpsons,
right? It's a chapter that's ended, but again, there's a new chapter that just opened and is ready to be written, even more till 2029. Martin Ojeda, it was announced, John, that our DP Martin Ojeda has extended his contract till 2028, 2029 MLS season. Obviously, Martin is the key of our identity, just like that's what Ricardo said as well. And clearly it's tremendous. We're kind of like married to the guy now, essentially, with this record-breaking 2025 season, and also extending his contract. Great news, because he's going to be the motor that makes the engine run. What are your thoughts on this extension, John? Ojeda 2029, phenomenal news.
Phenomenal news, and I want to say beautifully well played by the media team to go from Muriel is out, and then within like 30 minutes they were like, oh, 100%. And also Ojeda's here forever. So beautiful, like double whammy of news that we all kind of suspected would happen, that with Muriel leaving, you take some of that $4 million and pay the man who deserves it most, pay the man who right now is definitely our best player and has been for a couple seasons. He is just so dynamic and I think so underrated in this league. I honestly think that. So if we won't know how much he's getting paid in this new deal, but my suspicion is it's around the 2 million mark. In which case, if you look at other players in the league that would be paid around that similar amount, in the sort of 2 million to the 3 million range, perhaps, he's still, I think, better than a lot of those players. So I'm sure we paid him more. Maybe we need to really get the bag out and pay him a lot to keep him. But I'm happy that we have locked him down for the future, and hopefully this is going to stop some of these rumors all the time. I love when I see the South American media claiming that he's out of contract because they don't quite understand the idea of MLS contract options. Which I totally get because like they're dumb and like no one else has that. So when they read a contract is expiring, they think that's expiring. So sadly, no. And now it's really not expiring, right? We pushed him way down the line to 2030. Hopefully he is going to be the franchise guy, the face, the leader, the number one dude. Maybe there's going to be another bigger guy than him, but for right now, he's it. And, I couldn't feel there's not many 10s in this league I'd rather have than Martin Ojeda. I'll tell you that.
David, what are your thoughts on Ojeda 2029?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be more thrilled and happy for a guy like Tincho to be able to kind of get his just reward after last season. I mean, as a lot of fans probably know, MVP candidate very early in the season, just ran away with a lot of different things. Honestly, was the better Argentinian 10 in Florida until, Messi kind of turned it on late and, did his normal Messi stuff. But I mean, just really deserved the money. And like John said, I really love the kind of reallocation, like pay this guy a little bit now for everything that he's been doing and all that kind of stuff. And I think the way he's navigated this entire process, right? We heard in other interviews that he's told people that he loves Orlando, his family loves Orlando. They don't really want to go anywhere else. Unfortunately, I think we broke the hearts of a bunch of South American Giant fans. I know some of those teams were hoping to maybe get a bite out of him, like Palmeiras or Sao Paulo or one of those kind of teams. But sorry, guys, you're gonna have to pony up if you're gonna want to do that now. But just really deserves it. And I think what it does too is it's going to give him the peace of mind, right, to go into the next couple of seasons and really continue to like hone his craft. Because remember, by nature, he's not really a 10. He was a winger, really, as he was coming up in Argentina and playing for different teams. He did play there in spots for Godoy Cruz, but it wasn't like his main spot. And now that we really gave him the keys last season and let him kind of ride and do his thing, I really look forward to sort of his second season of like refinement, right? Him really fine tuning and finding the ways for him to connect and do the things that he's going to do. So I'm really excited. He's, as I've told you guys before, he's on my short list to be one of the captains for the team. Like once Janssen decides to either hang it up or if for some reason he's not on the pitch. I know he's more of a quiet type. I know a lot of people have said that about him. He's more of a quiet kind of guy, but I don't have an issue with that because I think on the field he turns it up another level, right? His competitiveness comes out, and he really knows how to do that. And then really, I think now with all the young guys coming in, I think it's a great opportunity for him to kind of ingratiate himself with them, right? Bring them under his wing, make them feel welcome, make them feel good. Because as like Luis and John have both said, this guy's the face now, guys. You're going to see him plastered everywhere, and rightfully so. He should be everywhere you're looking. He should be on the adverts. He should be on the banners that we're going to put up in different places. So I'm just really excited to not only one, see him get his just rewards, of course, but really just see a guy who really seems like he wants to play for the badge and bring titles to Orlando. He said that in his statement, right? He wants to win championships. One wasn't enough for him, and that's the hunger we need from a guy who's at the top end of the roster.
If Martin has a similar season to last year's, it will be, and I think we all need to unite as a fan base. I call out everyone, every single person. This guy needs to be an MLS All-Star. It is a disgrace that he was not even in the MLS All-Star last year. And I mean, again, I don't care about your market. The whole point of the All-Star is you bring the best players in each team. And clearly his stats were outstanding for an MLS. Those MLS All-Star level stats. I'm sure he's going to be able to repeat the same season he had last year. We need to see him in the MLS All Star. That's all I'm saying. It's just
I
it's
think the rest of
wrong.
the league needs to understand that he is like a real name. You know what I mean? Like you hear
Right.
people talking about like Hani Mukhtar or like,
Yeah.
they talk about
Right.
some of these other tens around the league with a lot of reverence and, respect. And I don't always hear other guys talking about Martin Ojeda like that. And I don't know why that is, because honestly, like I said, he's an absolute baller. And I think he goes underrated by a lot of people. And I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's because he's not, really outspoken or flashy, or I don't know. But he's a workhorse and he gets his head down, and he's very consistent. That's the other thing I'd say about him is like he consistently puts in good performances. Even when we were struggling at the end of the season and didn't look that great, Ojeda still had games where he's like, okay, I can put the ball in the back of the net. I can do something. Even though the rest of the team is just not really up to the same standard as it was earlier in the season. So I'm really excited for him to be here, man. He's a great player, and I really hope he doesn't leave us ever. That'd be great.
100%.
Retire here, please, Martin.
It says Muriel forever a disappointment. Says Ruben Perez. Landon says, remember, Muriel is going to bring him the Libertadores. LMAO. Landon says, are we calling him Ojeda or Tincho or Martin? Going to be so confusing when the season starts. And there's both of them. Yes, I think they should either put Martin Ojeda in his back or put Tincho in his back. But I mean, Tincho, at least in Spanish, at least in my neck of the woods, Tincho doesn't really mean anything. Like, so maybe they use Tincho, but it is going to be a little bit confusing.
Ricardo at ILF Day, which we'll talk about in a second, he said that Martin needs to be Ojeda because he's the original Ojeda.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Brian. Brian's going to have to be Brian because Ojeda is Ojeda. So you heard it from El Jefe himself.
Okay.
From the big man. So we got Ojeda's Ojeda and Brian is Brian. So sorry, Brian.
I'm good.
I think that's probably what they
they
decided in the squad.
Yeah,
Ricardo
that's fair.
saying that.
That's fair.
I think when I talk about him analytically, I'll probably call him Teen Show because I think it'll just be easier for me to like keep them apart that way. But honestly, we need to come up with a great nickname for him. Like if he doesn't like Teen Show, like let's come up with something badass that like really puts him like in that stratosphere. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. We got to come up with something.
I like somebody when they did the Ojedas. It was Ticho and the Brain. Which I thought that was really good.
Gee. But anyways, we're gonna be talking about next the airline firm, Orlando City's prominent supporters group, probably one of the best supporter groups, if not the best supporter group in the MLS. Celebrated its 15th anniversary with ILF Day Live, which I thought it was a tremendous concept. January the 17th, 2026. You featured a Q&A with GM and Sporting Director Ricardo Moreira and President of Business Operations Jared Dillon, which had a really cool jacket, I might say. They discussed the 2026 campaign, roster plans, fan engagement. Also, Oscar Pareja and Jordan Gerbey were there. It was held from 4 to 11, and it included, obviously, live music. And again, it was a Will's Pub, which it is a staple, I will say, in especially if you're into, music, especially from Central Florida. A lot of bands play in Will's Pub. Also, I remember Back Booth back in the day, Uncle Lou's, The Social. Now I think it's called something else. We used to have all the shows, and it was a smash event. It was great. Reinforcing, obviously, the role of Orlando soccer culture and how, it started from a small club coming in from Austin to growing into a culture of soccer, of avid, rabid fans ready to do anything for the crest. So amazing. I know that we have some pictures here that John's putting on. How was it, John? I mean, you were there. I unfortunately couldn't make it, but tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was really cool to see. ILF host the, like this preseason event. Before in other years, we've had the Pareja perspective, right, where the club has done it at the
Yeah,
West Club. I don't know why the club didn't do it that way this year. Honestly, I think it's because they wanted to do something with the supporters and
100%.
give the supporters the opportunity to, talk to Oscar, talk to Jared, talk to Ricardo. So the first like hour, it was, Geron Gervais was there and Oscar was there, and they were just like walking around chatting to everybody. So I know plenty of people from the ILF got a chance to take pictures with them and chat with them and talk to them. And then Jared and Ricardo turned up, and they were hanging out. And then they went on the stage, and the ILF had some like pre-submitted questions that people had sent in. Some good questions, lots of really good questions. There wasn't really anything. I think I'll say this: if you've been watching Loud and Proud Orlando and you listen to us every week, I don't think there was anything there that we haven't already kind of said. There was a few really interesting things. I think the main thing from Ricardo and the sports side was that he definitely they are looking for a DP9, and that they want to make sure that they get the right DP9, which is kind of what we've all been saying. But he definitely stressed that, like, they're not, just going to go and sign anybody. They want to make sure after Muriel, and he very open about that situation, that they're going to get the next one right. So that was great. Jared Dillon then talked about a few different things. He talked about the fact that they're going to put in what they're literally called big ass fans. So this is basically these huge, massive fans that they have in different like venues. They have like big blades on them. They're going to put them all throughout the concourse, is what I understand. I don't think there are going to be any in the seats and in the stadium, mainly because the roof is just so high. So I don't think they're going to be able to work like that. They're mainly designed to like move the air in kind of like the concourse areas. I know a lot of people in the summer, it gets really hot when like halftime comes and everybody's out there in the concourse and it gets sweaty. So I think a lot of people will be really grateful to get some airflow. So excited about big ass fans. Yeah, and then the only other kind of fun thing that I really remember was Ricardo talking about the fact that he loves the chef cooking memes. So, everyone out there who's Chef Ricardo, he apparently enjoys those and get a chuckle out of those as well. But it was great to see all of the, original ILF people talking with all of the club execs and all of the ILF supporters there, and just a lot of, really kind of how it was back in the old days. They're trying to build those relationships between the supporters clubs and the front office to have, an open conversation. So this was really cool. Like, I don't think it's been many a year since you've had the head coach just hanging out with the supporters like this, not since the kind of Inchy days. So it was really cool to see. And kudos to ILF. They did a great event, and kudos to everybody who came from the club and spoke. They all did a really good job.
No, tremendous. Obviously, it's great that our soccer culture, I believe, it's growing, not only in the men's but also in the women's. I think they've also done a really good thing of supporting some of the supporter groups for the Pride as well. So it's really, they're the ones who make it happen. I mean, you see all the tifos and all the fan experience that they do. So tremendous, especially do it again at a staple place for Central Florida. If you're well known, I mean, Will's Pub is pretty big. Um, David, anything you want to add to this amazing event?
I mean, not much. I didn't get a chance to go either. Unfortunately, I was out of town. So I really kind of, wish I could have made it and everything like that. But I just think it's great. One, of course, that they're celebrating 15 years. Some really great people who are a part of ILF. I want to shout out Logan, of course, who I think a good amount of us have probably interacted with over the years and everything like that. But just really awesome by the club to, put themselves out there, number one, but not just in a negative way of like being vulnerable and things like that, but also just like, shaking hands, having general conversations with people. I mean, I know we like to forget sometimes that, these athletes and these executives are people as well. So it's a really nice experience to be able to go up to them and chat with them and find out what's going on. I think it's a real bummer if Pints with Pareja doesn't make a return, which it kind of seems like we're headed towards this year, unfortunately. Because I do think it fits in nicely with the rest of sort of the suite of preseason events that the club normally puts together. I know the 5K is back this year at the right time slot. I know we got it late last year, but it's at the preseason time slot again this year. So maybe there'll be other kind of cool events that the club puts together and things like that. But just a really awesome thing for ILF to celebrate, all of the things that they're celebrating. And obviously I hope this gets them on a really good footing with the front office for next season. Because, obviously, there's been a lot of talk of people not being in the stands this year for various reasons, dropping season tickets or prices are a little too high for folks and everything like that. So those of us that are there, I'd love to feel more of a camaraderie amongst everybody of just, next to my buddy here, we're all in the trenches together, and through rain or shine, I'm going to go ahead and use that cliche that we use a lot, you know, really just kind of being there for each other and doing the thing, right? So just
Yeah,
awesome job by the group to put that together, especially in the location and all that kind of stuff. Really exciting stuff to see from the club and from the supporter groups.
and I do want to add, just to end this, and there be some comments, go through the next topic. I do want to say, for us as an outlet, and at least I could speak for me, we need to, as social media creators or social media outlets or journalists, anybody that just covers the club, to be united and and be as one, and especially when it comes to, because we all want Orlando City to do great. You know what I mean? And when sometimes things may be said, get to know the person. Make your own assessment of a particular person, and think about, we're all going to come together for this particular, it will be great for us to do, especially on LPO. And I do want to extend this to anybody that may be watching or listening from any other. We would love to do a panel eventually during the season to talk about, the club, like mid-season, maybe end of the year, and call, all other podcasts or other outlets, or maybe Citro, Gramajo, people that I see almost every freaking weekend, and bring them over to speak about Orlando City. And I noticed that that's, I think, something that we could definitely work on to getting better at. I love the fact that a bridge is being built between both brands, Orlando City and Orlando Pride. That's fantastic. I love the fact that the front office is taking that initiative to speak to the supporter groups and be present there like they did before in the past, kind of following the old model. I think also now us as content creators need to just support Orlando City as well. You know what I mean? And, say our piece and say our opinions like we always do, but in a dream world, in a utopian Luis Pineda world, I would love to, have that open relationship with other outlets. I think that makes the brand even stronger. I think it makes the soccer culture even bigger. And it just ends all the stupid bickering negativity that may arise for certain situations or certain changes or this states of opinion. So I do want to leave it out there. We here at LPO would love to collaborate with any outlet that's out there that covers Orlando City and Orlando Pride. So I do want to make it fully clear on that. But I thought it was an amazing event. I honestly, when I saw the pictures and John put it on his Instagram, which you guys can see, it was John Rollins TV. Amazing, the pictures. And I wish I would have been there, because I was like, yo, it was a Will's Pub. I was like, man, I would have loved to be there.
They had a full rock concert after all of the talking and
Yeah.
everything. I went off for dinner because I'd had a few beers by that point and I was hungry. But I think a lot of the ILF stayed and kind of partied the night away. I didn't get a chance to say hi to Jean Gerbet, but he left right before I could say hi. But I really wanted to say hi to him. And also, I'm sure a lot of people asked Oscar about the things for the season. So he was in there. This was the opportunity to get your questions into Pappy. So I think it was great to see that everybody was able to come together, and I want to see more of that, more of this
Yeah, we need to come
supporters
together.
and front office.
Yeah.
You know, Ruckus and ILF are working together. They're all working with the front office. This is what we want to see. I don't, you know, it's not healthy to have the divide.
100%.
And so shout out to Logan. I know that he's been, and also the, you know, people at Orlando City who work in the front office for reaching out and working with the supporter groups and trying to make more things like this happen. So that's great.
Daniel Vega, do you think they're going to do any more fan events? I believe so. Personally, I do think so. They have to. I mean, I think this was a success. So let's hope that keeps the train going. Frankie Cosmos, anyone ask if Gervais is still on track on his ACL recovery? Would be huge to have him in the depth chart. I know, right? How does he look? Oh man, you didn't see him, John, right? He came after you.
I mean, he looked fine. I mean, he walked fine. Like, I mean, what do you mean? I don't know.
You know, it would have been funny if you would have been like, hey, John, let me touch your leg. Are you okay? Do you feel okay? No, but either
I'm
way,
sure enough people at that event asked him about his ACL.
Yeah, I'm sure. But
I think he's on the injury appearance list right now, right? Whenever a player is like injured, they're the one that goes to all these kind of things. So I think that's probably why he's there.
Yeah, I mean, that whole Mills Avenue strip, to me at least, is very special. Back when I was much younger, it was getting pho in Viettown, walking, getting a 32 because there's no 40 ounces. There was a gas station right there. Then walking to Uncle Lou's. Then there was a show early that it was like I don't know, whatever show, and then going to Will's Pup at the end and continuing the party. So it was like show hopping. And then if there was a show at Back Booth, we would walk from Mills to Pine Street. So it brings a lot of memories from back when I was like a ruckus in itself. So with that, we're gonna tie it into our DP search because we were kind of getting into Muriel's exit, and Orlando is seeking a designated player striker to definitely lead our attack. Obviously, John just mentioned that Moreira said, we're gonna take our time to pick the right person. We don't want to jump the gun. Obviously, targets could include high-profile free agents or transfers. Proven scores to complement Martin Ojeda. Personally, I like Romelu Lukaku, guys. I know John likes Danny Welbeck. I'm just joking. But no, I was just teasing you. And then I know there is some available MLS free agents, but what was surprising is, I know that we're looking for a DP. What is surprising is that a former DP of Orlando City, Facu Torres, who left Orlando, and we got money. I mean, $14 million, and we retain a 15% sell on. Tom Boger broke it that he is 90% nearing an MLS return with Austin for $9.5 million. And we're getting 15% of that moolah. I don't know, David, what are your thoughts on first the DP search and then obviously tying into Facu?
Yeah, so I think for the DP stuff, I think I went on record last week saying I'd prefer one to come in now. I mellowed a little bit on that. I think I'd still lean towards I'd love to have one in now if the right one became available. And sorry for all the Pigeon fans. I think that dream's not going to come true at least this window. So you're gonna have to kind of deal with that, I suppose. So sorry about that. But we'll see. I mean, like I'm sure Ricardo, like we said last week, he's got his list. It sounds like at the ILF day, he definitely said a similar thing of, they're kind of doing their due diligence and working through the targets and things like that. So if it doesn't work out, that's fine. I don't know if I'm still 100% comfortable with just Duncan and Harvey to start the season. I kind of would love a little bit more depth there if we're not going to bring a DP in. I know we're very finite on our senior roster spots, though, that are left. So we'll have to see how we can play that. I think there's only like 2 left or something like that. So we'd have to be careful about what that looks like. But we're about to get more money, to segue a little bit. We're about to get more money with Facundo Torres coming back into the league. I feel for the guy, though, to be honest with you. I know when he left, it was difficult for him to leave because, he really found a a kinship and a family here in Orlando, and obviously
Yeah.
we took a chance on him at a pretty young age when we got him from Peñarol. Anyone who was around at that time, that was the first like big Orlando City like transfer in saga. That thing went on for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. It was on, then it was off, then it was on, then it was off, and it was just nuts. But anyway, we to really see him, we sold him for a decent amount of money, right? We made a pretty good profit on him. We got him to a league that he wanted to be in Brazil and everything like that. And then to kind of see him go from like starter to bench to spot starter, back to bench, and all these different things. There was that rumor that came out 2 or 3 weeks ago that said he really wanted to, move on and find something else. And there was that rumor that he got linked to Benfica, which might have just been agent speak at this point. But,
Yeah.
he got linked to Benfica and all that kind of stuff. But then, like, to see an MLS team linked back to him, it's like it hurts a little bit, right? It's bittersweet. It's like, no, I'm happy for the guy. He's gonna go back to the league that he's used to and all that kind of stuff. But like, he's not gonna be wearing purple, and like that kind of stinks. And what that looks like, he's gonna be a DP though. And as far as I'm concerned, to me, he's not worth a DP on this current team and sort of the iteration that we're at. I just don't think he really fits. I know some fans were like, "Oh, I'll take him back in a heartbeat." He doesn't really fix anything that's like wrong with our team right now. That's kind of why I don't really like lean towards that happening. And plus, if you want to make the joke, just make him go on his right foot and we'll be all right. Like, as long as we remember that and we play Austin, we should be okay. But no, in all seriousness though, like, we're gonna make a little bit over $1 million if we're getting 15%. So like more money in the coffers for Orlando City. So that's awesome. And then honestly, he's going to the West and a team that we're not gonna play this season. We don't play at all this season. We'll see how the tournaments go and what that looks like. But we're not scheduled to play Austin at all this season, so we wouldn't face him this year. Obviously, when the schedule flips over, the goal I think is that you would play every team in the league. So we would play him in the 27-28 season. So that'll be what it is. But I can't complain about money. Like, we're gonna get money out of this and what that looks like. I just hope he can find better footing and figure out what he's gonna do, because obviously Brazil doesn't seem like it was the best project for him.
Fans in Brazil are kind of like saying this should be studied for not to jump the gun and just sign any player from MLS. That's why a lot of Palmeiras fans are very disappointed. Some Palmeiras fans go to the record saying don't sign any more players from Orlando City. Some fans feel cheated but again, they don't know Facu as we knew Facu. I think Facu he was trying to be made the leader of the team, and he just was a squad player, a good squad player, in my opinion. Yes, a goal scorer, but he was not definitely the guy who's going to lead the locker room. What are your thoughts on this transfer and the DP search for Orlando City, John?
I think when Facu left, we sat here and we were like, I have a sneaky suspicion that this is not going to work out for him because of all the reasons you said. And I think, it's him coming back to MLS. To me, a lot of it screams the safety and the bosom of like a DP contract. Honestly, it's like, I think that's genuinely what he wants. So, like, he wants to come back to a situation where he knows he's going to play, right? I mean, that's the big thing. The DPs here, they play. Like, when he was here, even when he had times when he sucked, we still played him because Oscar was just like, he's a DP and he's my best right winger. I got to play him. But I think his confidence is shot. So Austin has to get his confidence back. When he gets his confidence back, he's a great player. He can bang him in from his left foot. But like David said, he can only go left, and I messaged the WATV guys, or the Austin TV guys, who do a great job over there. And basically, they're chatting with me, and I said, he's a good dude, but you got to get his confidence up. And also he can only go left. Like, and it's not a joke. It's a very accurate statement. But he could find a great home in Austin. I could see it being a good club for him. I wish him all the best. I honestly think that he could still go to Europe, but I think the issue is who's going to pay that much money for him, right? And I think Palmeiras, they want their money back, or some of it back, right? So they paid $14 million. If they sell him to Austin for like $10 million, they've only really lost like $4 million or so. That's not too bad, but he could go to Europe for like a good a decent club. Like I could always see him doing well in La Liga or like, you know, Ligue 1 or like Serie A or something. Maybe not at a top club, but at a mid-level club there is a place for him. So it seems to me, honestly, like he wants to come back to MLS because he knows that it's a cushy situation and that he's going to get minutes and he's going to get played and it's good for his confidence. And we saw that really he's a guy that you got to put an arm around, and no one in Brazil is going to do that. But here in MLS, you'll get that if you're a DP.
Yeah, it's immediate impact is sink or swim in Brazil, just like in the championship as well for South American players. Like right now, there's a whole drama about Watford trying to target a Peruvian starlet. I'm like, they're not. They're gonna probably ship him out to a different club first, to you know, because you gotta. I mean, it's such a physical league, the Premier League and the Championship. I think the Championship is a little bit more than the Premier League, in my opinion, but it's just such a scrappy league. You need to have the physicality to withstand some pressure. And sometimes we've seen Facu is just under pressure. It was not really the person who would take the team to the promised land at times. But I wish him all the best. Austin is a beautiful city, gorgeous, great people. I have friends there. You know, friends there, a lot of friends. And, you know, I'm actually hoping to go to on vacation to Austin soon, hopefully, and it'll be good to go to an Austin FC game for sure. But again, on the side of the DP search, you know, I think, you know, and I know people don't want to hear it, but I think, you know, fans expect Orlando to contend for an MLS Cup after a disappointing 2025 playoff exit. But also with that being said, with that being understood, you cannot jump the gun and make the same mistakes of the past. You know, right now we could certainly sign a DP and it may not work out, and then we're on the same train again. And you know, we gotta give trust on what we have right now. You know what I mean? And with that, we're gonna jump into the next topic, which is fan expectations for the 2026 season, positions to target, and certainly I do want to say that my three concerns are the left back position. I think the concerns of everybody, if I'm incorrect. Also, you know, maybe Alex Freeman, right? That's another one that we have just Taifi right behind him. And then will Duncan McGuire go back to be that Duncan McGuire when he first started and was the red hot? You know, because after the shoulder injury, he kind of dipped, you know, his performance. So, what are your thoughts there, David, on that topic when it comes to fan expectations for 2026?
Yeah, I think the first thing, and I think people are gonna think this is a little bit weird, but the first thought that I have about sort of what we should expect and what to look for is I know right now there's a part of the fan base and fans across a lot of the other 29 teams is, you know, doom and gloom, right? Miami's
Yeah.
building themselves a superstar roster. We're all screwed. No one's here to help us. We're not going to get opportunities and blah, 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 blah. Guys, Miami's goal is to win CCC. And all of their fans and all the pundits and everything else have said that if they don't win CCC, it's a failure. That's what everyone keeps saying, right? If they don't win CCC, it's a failure to them. And honestly, with the roster they're building, it's kind of not a lie. Their goal should be to go win CCC and make it to Club World Cup again and all that kind of stuff, right? My first thing and my first point for Orlando City is in any of the competitions that we're playing in, we know we're going to be in Leagues Cup, we know we're going to be in US Open Cup, and we know that we're going to be in obviously the MLS season. In those competitions that don't have Miami, you have to go for it. You should have been going for it from the beginning, but you have to go for it in competitions that don't have Miami. Now, the other flip side of the coin, and a team that I think you know, a lot of people who watch MLS will know about as well, Nashville's another team you got to watch out for. Nashville is assembling a pretty nasty attack. They're reloading on the defensive side, even with losing Walker Zimmerman. They're going to be another beast of a team in the East. It's another team you're going to have to look out for and contend with. But I think they're still beatable. And I think that's the thing that people need to think about. So look at these other competitions. Use Open Cup especially. I know we've already won an Open Cup trophy. I'd love to add another one to the trophy case, of course. But that's a competition, I think, where you have a better shot of winning a trophy, right? So go out and go win a trophy for those things, right? John talked about this last week, but the team really only needs to be successful enough to get halfway through the season for then when we can bolster ourselves with a summer DP. How many of these big teams have added the big summer DP or the big summer DP and even a TAM signing sometimes to help them get over the top and help them make it deep in the playoffs or even win MLS Cup, right? That's what you're looking for things like that. I'd love to sit here and say, this team is so good, we can go win a supporter shield. Guys, I don't think we're in a position to win a supporter shield. Our home record over the last 2 seasons would beg to differ, right? We haven't really been able to put it together at home. So we need to figure that out first. But my first thing for that is I'd love to make Inter&Co, Orlando City Stadium, as I like to call it, Orlando City Stadium a fortress again. I think that's one of the keys that we need to do because we always seem to do pretty decently away, but we need to make Orlando City Stadium a fortress again. And we start by doing it by being great fans and showing up and doing our part and all that kind of stuff. But the guys are also there and can feel it and all that kind of stuff. When it comes to the roster, though, let's stop talking about abstracts. Let's go to the roster here. When talking about the roster, I think we are super solid in the middle of the park, even with the Jean Gervais probably being out for most, if not all, of the season. But I still think we're pretty solid there. And I think it'll be interesting to see who emerges as the top 2 guys out of that double pivot, right? I think right now, John kind of has it right. I think it is going to be Wilder Cartagena and it's going to be Brian Ojeda. I think those 2 guys are going to be the ones that are really going to sort of push for that double pivot spot. And I love the partnership with those 2. So I think that should really work out for us. For the wings and things like that, obviously Marco Pasalic is going to be your guy on the right. Martin Ojeda is going to be your guy in the middle. And then, as we've heard so far in the preseason, it's going to be Spicer. But again, would love to see Iago compete there and push Spicer if he's kind of ready for it. I think Iago gains an advantage because he's coming in fit to preseason, whereas Spicer kind of had the offseason to kind of wind down and do his thing. So he'll have to wind back up again. But really interesting competition there. Look at left wing. It'll be interesting to see kind of what works out there. Duncan, I think, has a really great opportunity this preseason to come in and snatch the striker position and really hold on to it. I'm not saying that there's really anybody else there in that list that are going to take it away from him if we don't sign a DP9. But I would really love Duncan to still go out there and be like, yo, guys, this is mine. This spot is mine. Banging goals in preseason, have some great interconnecting play, do all the things that you want your striker to come in here and do. Really show us that he's past the shoulder injuries because now he's had both shoulders worked on now. Really work past those, get your confidence back, get yourself into the scoring, kind of swing of things and really make it your position to lose. With the Iago rumors being for center back, I think it makes me feel a lot better in the center of the park. Still would love one more name there, whether that's one of the college guys or whether that's potentially, an MLS veteran. I know, was it Nolan Miller, I think, made it to the last round of the beep test the other day. So solid for that dude. And then shout out to Taifi as well, who made it to the last round of that beep test. Awesome job on that. And then left back, it's the elephant in the room, guys. We got to figure out what the heck's going to go on here. I would love Marin to start drinking the Orlando water and all of a sudden be able to really figure out what it's going to be at left back. I'd love for him to look at all of us and be like, hey, you guys thought I was a joke. Joke's on you. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm sorry. I just don't, based on what we saw last season. So, again, like I sort of mentioned earlier, is this Reed Brown's chance to go and snatch the spot for him? I think this is the closest he's ever going to get. So maybe the young kid can come into preseason, put in some great performances, and maybe compete out there. If we get some more center back, I'm not mad if we need to put David Brecalo back out there and just say, hey, Brecalo, we really need you to go out there and put in a shift maybe for half the season until we can address it in the summer as well or something like that. I also wouldn't be against the club going out there and finding a solid left back to just say, hey, this left back's going to go compete with Marin, and if Marin loses the job, he loses the job, right? And that takes one of our, senior roster spots, which I know we're finite on right now, but I'm okay with that because we've got to identify what we're doing at left back. I mean, I know the club believes in Marin and all that stuff, but like all the fans were not blind. We saw what happened when he came in
Well,
last season and the work that he put in. So there's some levers to still pull. Absolutely. No doubt about it. There's some places to still bolster. But like this roster is not bad, guys. Like I know it's not the Miami level of roster, right? This is not a super team roster. It never was going to be. I hate to be that guy, but it wasn't going to be. But this is a good roster. I think it competes with the likes of like, as Frankie says in the comments, and I'm glad that he brought this up in the comments. But like, yeah, teams like DC got better, Chicago got better, Toronto got better. They're all better teams, right? Charlotte is still a very good team. They're going to compete next year. Atlanta with getting Tata Martino back. Can they figure it out and finally piece it together? They spent a lot of money on their front three, right? That you gotta imagine they're eventually going to figure it out. I know as Orlando City fans, we don't want them to figure it out, but you imagine that they probably find a way to figure it out. So it's going to be, as Frankie says, a bloodbath in the East. So to me, go take the trophy wins that you can grab in other spots. Open Cup. We proved last year that Leagues Cup, we can figure it out and compete in Leagues Cup as well. So go for those competitions and go do those things. And really, like John said, you need to be good enough at the middle of the season for when the reinforcements arrive. And could you imagine if we go out and like maybe to make Luis feel just great about himself? What if Lukaku walks in the door in the summer and that's our DP9 signing? And
that'd be
then let's say
amazing.
left back,
I'll
doesn't
flip
get
out.
doesn't get addressed in the early season, and then we go in and we get a left back who can bring us to the next level. Then what? This team becomes a beast at that point, right? Because then we're playing the hot hands at the wings. We're putting, I don't know, our DP, let's say Lukaku in this example, we're putting Lukaku up top, and we're getting a left back who can compete, so we bolster ourselves in the center of the park. That's a squad that can win and go win trophies, right? So again, the game's not played on paper, y'all. Don't forget about that, okay? The game's not played on paper. This team's got a lot of heart. It's got a lot of grit. And we just added a bunch of players, to Luis's point earlier, that have won trophies in Brazil. Not necessarily at the top levels with some of them because they're younger kids, but they've won everything you can win at the lower levels. And those are the things you're looking for. They have the winning mentality, right, of what this is going to look like. And then OCB is going to continue to feed us that talent as the years go on. Because remember, we've got Justin Ellis down there. We've got Platts down there. We just signed, what was it, Heitland, who's down there. Juan Rojas, who's on this
Thales
sheet.
is
He's the
another
next keeper coming
Brazilian.
up. Yep. So
Flowers.
all these guys are down there for OCB who can easily go and step up and make a name for themselves throughout the season. So I'll stop going on and on and on. But a lot of stuff to be excited for going into the season as long as we can pull one or two more levers.
What about you, John? What are some of the needs you feel like needs to be addressed in the current stage of the team right now?
Yeah, I think everything David said is correct. I don't disagree with any of that. I think I'm gonna have a little bit more faith in Adrian Marin. I just think that there is something there, and I hope with a real preseason and him settling in that he can step up and be at the level that we need. But yeah, so far we haven't seen it, so it is a bit of a punt. I agree with David. If we see a left back come in, that to me then says they're not fully sure in Marin. But if we don't see a left back come in, I think it's to say that we're confident that he's the guy and that Reed Brown is good enough to be a backup and kind of push on that left side as well. So I think the left back is definitely one that I'm going to be watching for. I think I'd like to see a few more of these, draftees get contracts, whether that's with OCB or whether that's with the supplemental roster. Bring in Mitch Ferguson, bring in Nolan Miller. Let's see, Jalen Ewart as well, Issa Haruna, all of them, I think, have got enough to at least play for OCB and at least be contributing to this, ability to bring guys up and down and have, that backup, but also young guys pushing through as well. I think overall, the fan expectations for the season, the reason that I say this, I think some fans maybe think that, winning MLS Cup is like the whole plan of we're going to do this rebuild and we're going to, win MLS Cup off the bat. I think you have to understand that we are changing a lot of the squad. There's been a lot of change and a lot of turnover here. So for me, it depends on how many of these guys hit when they come in, how quickly they hit. I hate to use the word gelling, but how long is it going to take for everybody to work together, for Martino Ojeda to work with Brian Ojeda, for, our new signings in the back line or in the wings, etc. A lot of the young guys that are coming in, the Brazilians, they're going to need to maybe not start in this 11. I think a lot of our starting 11 is already here, but they're going to have to contribute in lots of other ways, off the bench, rotation, etc. So how quickly can we rely on the likes of Luis Otavio, Iago, if he comes in, Thiago? Are they going to come in and hit straight away and be effective? In which case, great. We're looking like Philly and we got a whole awesome roster of dudes. And I think we can rotate and really push that. Or are they going to take a lot longer to bed in which case we're going to have to rely on our starting 11. I do think that this is outside of, the question marks of Adrian Marin. If you were to play a starting 11 with Duncan McGuire, Tyrese Spicer, Martin Ojeda, Marco Paslic, Wilder Cartagena, Brian Ojeda, Marin, Jansen, Brekalo, Freeman, Maxime Crepeau, I do think that's a good starting point, right? You can add on top of that with the DP. You could maybe tweak some things. Players could improve, right? Like I said, we've got a lot of potential in a lot of these players. But I don't hate that starting 11. I think it's good. I think when you look at the idea of improving the roster, if we're then saying our third center back is Iago, is he better than, our third center back the last few years, which would have been, Schlegel? That's the kind of thing what I'm looking at. At right back, however you improve there. In center mid, is Brian Ojeda going to be more effectual than Atuesta, et cetera, et cetera? So I'm excited. I just don't know if we are a team that's ready to go ahead and win MLS Cup straight off the bat. Is this going to be a year that we have to kind of rebuild a little bit and bed in and kind of get our legs underneath us, and then the next year we're going to really take off? It depends. It really depends on how many of these signings we've gone for hit and how quickly they hit.
100%. And I wanted to add to what David and John were saying. I would like to see, and I know that some of the players watch the show, consistency. I think that's a word that was missing last season. It's something that needs to be stressed in completely for this 2026 season. I think fans, even though some fans say they want name recognizable players and all of that, you guys got to show, kind of like what happened with Marco and also with Caraballo in the Open Cup last year, how it happened with Spicer, goals, the mentality and the consistency to perform and outperform other players. So to make this a team that shows on the pitch that they're in to win it, and I think that was the point that was missing last season. There was a lot of passing the ball back, a lot of touches in the attacking third, unnecessary touches. Nobody would shoot the damn ball. Everybody, afraid for the contact on the box. And so I think consistency is going to be key. Now, again, we're a different market than other teams. And I mean, I know I sound like a broken record, but if we compare ourselves to other teams all the time, I mean, it's terrible. It's like, it's you got to work on your craft, aim for greatness, and just keep pushing forward. And I think, these kids are not playing professional sports because they're terrible players. I mean, to make it to the major leagues, you got to have some quality. Not just anyone makes it, right? So only, I believe, from all academies, maybe less than 1% makes it to OCB or even the major league, soccer teams, less than 1%. So, I mean, it's just in them too. I want to see more accountability on the players. Last season, yes, some tactics from Oscar were horrible, but we already talked about how this is a season of, we have a new sheriff in town that's pulling the strings, right? And so it's his head now too. So it's his.
Well, and Luis, I gotta say
it's his perception. So
I gotta say this. Yeah, I gotta say this too, though. it's on Oscar to be flexible, right? We've talked about this on countless weeks, but like, and we think we saw in the press conference last week that he had a bit of a breakthrough with himself and he was going to be more open and understanding of what his situation is. But like, he's got to be more open about how this team is going to play, right?
Right.
I
So
understand he feels comfortability in the 4-2-3-1, but like, if he has to change the formation or if he has
yeah,
to change from all that, he's got to be open to it.
but what I want to see from him is if Marin is not working and you know it's not working, you need to sub him out and put Taylor Brown. Like, make that change, Uh, the reason why we're in this Alex Freeman predicament right now with his contract situation, it's because, I mean, not to sound mean, but I feel like the club could have signed him for a longer deal. They just didn't think it was going to pan out that way. So we need to really, and Alex demonstrated it as soon as he got there. So what if we are in the verge of having somebody like Tahir Reed Brown or a Taifi breaking out as well, just like Alex? So we gotta make those changes. Because yes, fans are disappointed for Marin. I do agree with John. I hope that this preseason he can, because he had not a lot of minutes playing last year. He had a long injury. He didn't play, and then he came and played in the MLS, and he really was subpar, to say at least, to be nice. But again, let's see. I do agree on Tahiri Brown. I think he's a beast. Let's hope that that pans out. But guys, the word here is consistency. Because we can start super hot, but then if we dip at the end of the season like we did, last season, it's gonna be heartbreak again. And again, this team I think the fans want to win titles. Doesn't matter really if it's the Leagues Cup, the US Open Cup, competing on all of them, but really like competing and be consistent. So I say with the word consistency, and we're going to read some comments before we go real quick. It says, not sure Pareja has the tactics. Well, we'll see this season. Can they add a Brazilian U20 coach as a fourth U22? No, I don't know about that. Is the next season the silly season?
Yeah. After this season is the short and silly season.
But remember, MLS is back. We almost won that, so maybe that's our
True.
opportunity.
That's a good point.
With
We just gotta
the
host
season
all of it
that's
in
always going to
Orlando.
have an asterisk on
we
it.
should have it at the
Gotta host all
World
of
of
it in
Sports
Orlando.
and
Yeah, let's do it all here, and then maybe we'll win against Portland.
Put
in the
everyone
final
back in
this
the
time.
bubble, baby.
Daniel Vega. I'm really excited to see how that Ojeda duo can become. There you go, Daniel. Appreciate you. But anyways,
shout out to Oz, who did a really cool Ojeda squared graphic. I have to find that to show you guys.
Okay. No, yeah, shout out to Oz. I'm gonna be working on the new intro. Thanks to Oz this week. I've been away with the fam on this holiday. Happy Martin Luther King Day also to everybody that's watching. Anything else you want to add before we go, John?
No, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's watching. I launched my own channel last week where I've been doing some different stuff. I did an NWSL podcast, did some Stoke stuff. I'm going to try and do some pretty regular content over there. So go ahead and follow me over there as well. And I'm excited for the new season, man. Can't wait to get into it. Like, can it be, first opening day already?
100%. David, anything you want to add before we go?
Yeah, so a couple fun things. This week, I'll be working to spruce up and add some articles to the LPO website. So if you haven't been checking out the LPO website, Luis and I are going to work on some stuff over there and get cooking on some articles and various other things. So I'll be moving a good amount of my written content over there. If this Iago thing works out, I'll probably write a Who is Iago article. I've done a couple of those articles already with Iago and Luis Otavio, as well as Brian Ojeda. So this will be my fourth one. Stats will be a little bit harder to break down, but I'll try to give you guys all the scoop about this guy so you can get some information about him and kind of think about him a little bit. Also, if you didn't hear already, we plan to cover OCB next year as well. I'm going to try to be your lead guy and covering OCB. So if you ever had interest in understanding where all of these young Purple Lions are coming from, I got you covered this season. I'm going to work on all that content. So expect to see some of that content coming really soon. We're over here at LPO putting the work in, y'all. Like, we're going to work super hard to make sure we provide all that for you as we get closer to the season. Oh, and before I forget, first preseason scrimmage is on Saturday, everybody. We're already there. We take on Lexington on Saturday. I believe it's in Orlando, so probably over at Osceola Heritage. It's closed door, so we probably won't get live updates or anything like that. But if you follow like Austin David and folks like that, they'll probably have some updates throughout the scrimmage if you want to follow them. Remember, guys, wins don't matter. All we care about is who's scoring, who's gelling, who's working together. Luis Otavio should be in training this week. I'm crossing my
Yep.
fingers. He's been traveling, so I hope he makes it. He had some visa issues. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of Otavio's as well, so I hope the kid can get into camp and start getting bedded in. So really exciting stuff going on here at LPO. Exciting stuff happening with Orlando City. Get on the hype train, y'all. It's going to be a great start to the season.
Yeah, we're gonna be having our silly new signing pictures soon, hopefully. Also, we're gonna revamp, like David was saying, the website's gonna be better. I obviously did an alright job, but it could be better. So that's what David's gonna be, taking over that. And I also, please subscribe to John's channel. It's right here, John Rollins TV. Just subscribe, give him some love. He has a lot of great content. I love the NWSL pod that he just put out. It was fantastic.
Yeah, 242 people watched that. The first thing I made, so it was amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and if you guys, want to follow us as well, we're on X. If you go here and then you search us, we're right here, Loud and Proud Orlando. You can definitely subscribe and give us some love. And then I think I'm gonna be adding to the library, to the actual biography. I think we should add our content, like our channels and stuff. I think it'd be cool. So we will have easy access to that. And again, thank you guys for your support. We're definitely growing tremendously, and it's thanks to you guys. We have the Pride Pot next, coming up in about 20 minutes or so. Stay tuned, and we'll see you guys next week. And again, vamos Orlando. Have a good one, guys.
Vamos. Orlando, guys.
Thank you. Yeah.